Hotep family, welcome to the Pro Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio. Today we're going to discuss a very important topic, which is, can you liberate yourself without a gang and or militancy? And I'm going to base this off of what was a dream this morning. So, maybe some people say don't talk about your dreams. Sometimes dreams don't have too much meaning, if you will. But for whatever reason, I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to talk about this dream that I had last night, or actually this morning, and hopefully something could be picked up from it. All right. So it starts off. I actually put it in the Discord. So like I said, you could join that Discord, and engage the community, engage the people. Quite a few people on it, and a lot of healthy discussion. So definitely click it and join the community. We're actually looking to do certain projects, and it would be very good if you joined. All right, but let's cut into this right here. So this is insights from a dream, right? So let's take it into, this is like the imagination, and so sometimes the imagination will give us insight into like lessons of the universe, if you will. Like you can learn from anything, and so dreams are kind of like how you learn from yourself, even more than how you just learn from yourself. So let's go insights from a dream. So let's say I'm sort of a schoolboy again, right? I'm a school age, right? And I don't really want to give you the exact context, so I'm just gonna just give you the schoolboy age, right? So I'm around a bunch of new strangers. Most have good attitudes, but there's an exception of a few. So this is something that you have to understand about any people, any population, that there's going to be some people who are not good. Okay? There's going to be some people who are not good regardless of where you are. I mean, with the exception of if you're in your own atmosphere, your own ambiance, your own kingdom, whatever. In that kind of situation, no. You may not have anybody who isn't good, but particularly in this Western world, you're going to have people who are just not good, straight up, okay? Bad attitude, bad way of looking at the world, just bad all around, right? And this is something that you have to understand, that there has to be something to maintain these people, unfortunately, right? So I'm here, there's the staircase, whatever. I'm chilling at the bottom of the stairs as drama unfolds, okay? So just to give you some context, I'm in the bottom of the staircase. There's other people. There's a bunch of people just circling around us. There's one person in particular. It's going to be this quiet kid. Let's call him the quiet kid, right? And the quiet kid has his own demeanor, and maybe the quiet kid has something to do with that. I was listening to some song about some quiet kid who shoots up a school or something. You know what I'm talking about. Pumped Up Kicks or something like that. And then I was reading the comments. Maybe that's where this comes in, but it's an important concept. So there are some youth who do that. Back off my end, right? Shouting, and usually they're complied with, right? With the exception of the quiet kid, who at least in 2 prior occasions punches the person who's yelled at him in the face and ends the conflict. So what's interesting is that you're gonna have people with bad attitudes, and they're gonna be all back off, and they kind of like, you want to as a community contain them, but unfortunately, particularly like in this Western ambiance, in the Western world where the state has a monopoly on violence, right, or tries to monopolize the violence, you do not have, like, essentially you cannot go about with that kind of self-defense, if you will. Like, you can and you can't, you get away with it, it will be perfectly fine, but you might be legally restrained afterward, if you will. You need to lawyer up if you do something, and that's going to be a lot more than you bargain for, in most cases. So basically, this kid, like for instance, in real life, if you punch somebody in the face for yelling at you, you can land yourself in prison. So that's what the Western domination does. So it really discourages, that self-respect, that autonomy, if you will. And yet that's also the normal thing you would expect. Like, hey, you don't yell at me or I will punch you in the face. That's what you would expect, but at the same time, it's not something that's really iguana, if you will. Let's go. Let's go back to this. So he says, usually complied with, punches 2 kids in the face, right? So the third person, right? The last person he punched in the face was quieted too, but walked in front of him up the stairs. So he's following behind this guy up the stairs. Eventually, when they both reached the top, the person who punched turned on him along with 3 others who quickly restrained him, right? So now he has 4 people holding him down, right? And the one who's punched was positioned. So the one who was punched earlier, who's like, get out of my face, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And he gets punched in the face and he just walks off, kind of, right? He's now positioned to break the puncher's leg, right? And this only is to understand that joint locks are pretty easy. Your leg goes a certain way. And if somebody's holding you down, if 3 people are holding you down, and one of them, and a fourth one is applying weight on your joints to twist your leg off, it can be done, right? So, understanding how this ends for this person, or how this can potentially end for this person, knowing that this person is, in pain or whatever, I decide, let me do something about this. So, of course, I go up the stairs or whatever. So I saw to it to interfere, especially given I felt in this dream to have a faint report with the quiet kid. So, the way how dreams work is that they last for in real time, 1 minute or 2 minutes. But in dream time, it's you spent you spent 30 minutes, 40 minutes with these people, right? So you spent quite a bit of time with this quiet kid. You feel like he's a good guy or whatever. Maybe you just misunderstood or something, and you decide, let me go help him out, right? Because you feel like you have something to do with him, right? The quiet kid is pleading with the kid at the joint lock, please stop, right? But the kid joint locking him was pretty angry, and but also faintly so, just faintly like, hey, I got you in control. So as in, he may or may not break the other child's leg. So it's like sometimes when you see incidents of violence happening, you do not know you can't gauge how far they'll go. But it's up to one party. How one party is really taking the situation. So really it doesn't look like anything's gonna happen, but it could also go south. So of course, you want to intervene. You don't want to be like, oh well, this person's kind of humane and all that. So of course I was at the stairs beside, shouting the advantage of they had 4. So I'm like 4 versus 1, and it's like to no avail. It's stupid. You shout out the odds, you tell the other person the odds. Hey, you're outnumbering the guy 4 versus 1. You're not fighting fair. And it's like, yeah, we know. That's exactly why we're doing it. You know what I mean? Like the only reason why we're fighting this person is because we outnumber them. Why would we want to go 1 versus 1? And this is like something you have to understand when it comes to people in general. Like you want to pursue the advantage. As I told you many times before, the Klan had a policy of only engaging black people 3 to 1. Okay, only engaging black people 3 to 1, which would mean if you saw 3 black people walking, you would send 9 Klansmen to fight them. You don't send 3 people. And I think one of the chairmen back when I was organizing, he would tell us that we're the only people who would be like, come outside, come fight me 1-on-1 outside, right? Whereas other people are kind of like, yeah, we're going to fight at an unfair advantage, because that's the whole point. That's the whole point of how you fight. So anyway, so he says, I also weakly tried to pulling on one person who was on top of him, but he looked at me like I should have minded my business, and after this one quiet kid was taken care of, I'd be next. So he kind of looks at me with this face like, yeah, like, you're probably going to die now. You know what I mean? And I'm looking at him like, come on, get off this guy, Because, at the same time, it's like, what are you supposed to do? It's 4 people. 4 people. It's going to be, because if 4 versus 1 is winning against this guy, right? Why would 4 versus 1 be a winner for you? That's the question. Why would 4 versus 1 be a winner for you? So we go back. It says, I then considered calling for some assistance, but then I realized I knew no one. And more so that the people around, particularly the men, let these would-be gangbangers walk all over them, because despite outnumbering them, they aren't organized to fight them one-on-one, let alone when they are organized. So this is really important right here, right? So you're in this community, right? And you have 4 people who are just, grabbing whoever they want and abusing them, right? Now you as one individual can't do much. Now if now there's 20 of you, there's 30 of you, but if the 30 of you decide, hey, look, we're not going to do anything about this incident of violence, right? Then essentially the 4 people, the minority rules the majority. You see? Because even if you have one person like me who's like, hey, let's do something, if I go in alone, it's nothing. And of course, this is also an example. That's why you get a gun, exactly. but this is why I was saying, and that's the thing that I was going to say, because the Quiet Kid, like I said, the Quiet Kid is probably based off of the Pumped Up Kick song, and the Pumped Up Kick song is this white boy song where they celebrate school violence, and they say, all the bullies, basically all the kids with the pumped up kicks, the new kicks, you better run faster than my gun, So it's like, the kid is talking about how he's abused and all that. He just comes to school and starts shooting everybody. And it's like, you can't, like, it doesn't matter if it's 4 people. But again, this is the thing you have to realize too, when it comes to, like, gangs and all that. Like, they technically have guns too, because at one point, I was being threatened by, some strangers, right? Some strange kids. And, I said something, I shouted out something, and they were like, what? What'd you say? What'd you say? And I was sitting down with, a lady at the time, and she was like, I was just ignoring them. And I was like, nah, I could fight 3 kids, 4 kids. Like, I'm a grown-ass man. I can do whatever I want, right? But, she was like, oh, they might have weapons, though, And it's like, I'm like, yeah, well, if it's a knife or something, I'm good. But, like, technically, yeah, you could get gunned down in the streets pretty easily. So, even like you say, hey, you have a gun, sure, but then it's 1 gun against 4, or 1 gun against, 5, 10. And so that's where that comes in. Let's see. But that's exactly it. You want to think, and actually, I think Daniel Clemens, he's really good at he really wants to talk about white supremacy. So it kind of does tie in with his theory of white supremacy right here. I also weekly try to pulling on, oh, get off, and so yeah, if you had a gun, it would be different. But if you don't, you want to call for assistance. You call for assistance, realize no one, and again, even if you have a gun, you pull out a gun on 4 people with guns. It doesn't. It's like an equalizer between 2 people, but again, you're still outnumbered. So the good gangbangers. So yeah, again, like I said, one of the scenarios I like to play out in my head was this idea that if 4 people were trying to take over a building of 30, if the 30 people only approach the 4 people one on 4, then the 4 will win over the 30 people. So that's really what it comes down to. It's like you have to organize. And you have to organize not just to be able to fight one-on-one, which means, you have your martial discipline, your martial arts, that's really important. But you also have to organize into having formations, having group tactics, having group strategies, how to engage from the front and flank from the side. I'm situated started by that's my real name, unfortunately, by the way. Yeah, I know your situation started. That's why I said you were into that white supremacy stuff. Let me just write him. Alright, so let's see, go back to this. Alright. Let's see. So, and again, like I tell everybody, this is in discussions on the Discord. So, I decided to wake up. Oh, yeah. So then I'm here. I'm like, I decided to wake up because obviously this scenario was an impasse for me, right? No intelligent solution except to organize. There was no way for me as an individual to save this boy, and there was no way for me to escape, them turning on me and me being the next victim. I mean, except for like me running away, pretty much, right? But in a physical fight, if you cannot get the others to come up, then you're screwed. And so that kind of touches on to this larger point of gangs and military. So militancy. So of course, I wrote this up in the morning. You can probably see the timestamp. It's 7 a.m. Woke up pretty early. He says now it's time for logic. Oh jeez. All right. So lessons, right? Lessons are manifold, right? So, but it shows that the internal terrorism in the black community, right? So the internal terrorism, which would be like the gang warfare, right? The internal terrorism in the black community are caused by a lack of organization of well-meaning men and the organization of ill-meaning men, right? So the ill-meaning men being the gangs, right? So, but of course, this is an irony. My theory, no, my boy, at times it was like, oh. All right. So it's like you want to. The thing that the trouble, the reason why you have these gangs in the first place is because you don't have men organized to protect the community. You know, because there are not men organized to protect the community. What you have then. Speaking of which, let me check. Let me double check something. I gotta make sure you guys could hear me. But I mean, obviously you could, but I still should double check. You know, where's my here? You know, what you want to do is you want to. Yeah. All right. What you want to do is you want to have well-meaning men organized to their own protection. Now, of course, this is where the Western world comes in, right? Where the Western world kind of interrupts and essentially creates these gangs in the Western society is that it's like pretty much illegal for you to have an organization of well-meaning men. I mean, you could. That would be what they call whatever that guy was. The guy who killed Trayvon Martin. He was some sort of position, and that was the position of people who would be quote unquote well-meaning, protecting their community. But you have to do it with the cooperation of the police. The police are also that institution that is the well-meaning men trying to protect the community. But let's go back to this. Though this is complicated as many of the gangs were in fact, and sometimes by their own biases, at least to themselves, organizations of well-meaning men and women now. You see? So basically, like a lot of these gangs started off, like a lot of the gangs of today started off as being well-meaning men trying to do something good for their community. And even if you aren't a well-meaning man trying to do something good for your community, you, in a sense, are trying to. Let me actually hold on a second. I gotta close the browser. I thought this browser would have been lighter, but this one's not light enough. Hold on a second. Let me just close this. All right. Make the stream a lot better. Lessons are manifold. Yeah. So a lot of the gangs actually started off as well-meaning organizations, and that's really one of the things that we have to get at. You know, that, and not just that, even if you weren't a well-meaning organization, the reality is that you could have the motivation inside of a gang, right? You could have the motivation inside of a gang that says, oh, what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed my family. You know, I'm doing this in order to feed my family. Yeah, I'm selling drugs to other people. Yeah, I'm harming people. Yeah, I'm shooting people and defending the neighborhood. But what I'm doing with all this is I'm feeding my kids. You get what I'm saying? So in that respect, in that regard, it's like, you know, you're still well intentioned. You're still well meaning in your own world, in your own perspective. Even if you're like going out and harming strangers, you know, but you're doing it because, hey, look, I got to protect my turf, I got to protect my land, and I got to feed my family, you know. That is the way the smart. So let's go back to this. That is to say, the smartest way to protect yourself is to organize, which would be form a gang. So the smartest way to protect yourself would be to organize or form a gang, and it's probably in your greater interest if you're unable to secure an economic future individually for whatever reason. So if you're unable to form an economic future, it's probably in your best interest to join a gang. You know? If you can't do it individually. So like somebody like me could do it individually. We can go to university, get a degree, get the employment however we want. But that might not be the way that everybody else can go. You know? And because that's not the way that everybody else can go, that is where and why you may go you have to pick something. You have to secure your future, your economic future. So that's really something interesting, right? So it means that if you want a community, if you want community control, you need to organize a cadre with greater military strength than any other faction. And so this is kind of like what I was saying with about this brother Daniel's, right? Is that, or Daniel is at the end of the day, if like that is that's what the state does. The state, that's what America does. They try to organize a cadre with greater military strength than any other faction. So even if you look at like New York City, or you look at any of these southern states where the gangs being rampant and all that, you realize that the state, the police, all that, they have greater military strength. They have greater military strength than all the other factions, and that's really what you have to go for. Like that would be the military supremacy, and the military supremacy would be toward these white folk. So that would kind of tie in with this idea of white people have that white supremacy, in a sense, but it's really like military supremacy. Military supremacy that is pretty much in a lot of countries it would be like globally the military supremacy would go to the white folk. Now whether they have the infrastructure or capacity to fully exercise it, with the exception of obviously nuclear weapons, like outside of the realm of nuclear weapons, yes, is it practical for them to, like, for instance, America going to war with China is not really a sure thing for America, because again, it wasn't a sure thing for them when they were in Vietnam. It wasn't a sure thing. Like it's not a sure thing at any moment, but when it comes against black folk, it is pretty. It's like we have a long way to go, and particularly, and this is particularly in America. In America, it's a very short thing in America, but like outside of America, it's a good percentage. It's a good percent chance. So of course, in Western nations, 9 times out of 10, that'll be the police. So the faction, the cadre with the military strength, the greatest faction with the greatest military strength would be the police 9 tenths out of 10 instead of Western nations, which itself would target, if not well-meaning black militant organizations, revolutionary black militant organizations. So you're met with another impasse. So what I'm saying is that in a Western nation, if you had a well-meaning black militant organization, right, particularly a revolutionary black militant organization, the police who have that military supremacy would attack that black militant organization, if that makes sense, right? So what does that mean? So basically, in order to protect yourself from the gangs in America, right, you would want a well-meaning black militant organization, right? But the police would not want the strongest organization, the strongest military organization, or the second strongest military organization to be well-meaning black militants, especially not revolutionary black militants. You get what I'm saying? They do not want a strong faction that is well-meaning and or revolutionary. Why would they want that? And you have to ask yourself, very like this: if you were in charge if you were in charge of a nation, and in that nation you in that nation there was a group who was trying to overthrow your government, right? Would you let them flourish? You see what I'm saying? So if you're in a nation and there's a group that's trying to overthrow your government, that's trying to overthrow your ruling class, your economic distribution, whatever. Hold on a second. Whatever it is that you want, right? Would you just let them do it, or would you stop them? You get what I'm saying? So essentially, like the ill-intentioned black militant organizations, which would be the gangs, right? They do not threaten the state. So the state, it leaves them within their borders. You know, and say, look, it's a crime if you go into a white neighborhood, but in a black neighborhood, if you're doing X, Y, Z, if you're selling, you know, cocaine or whatever, then it's not that big a deal for us. You know, sure, you know, we'll arrest a few of you, sure, we'll whatever, but at the end of the day, it's not really harming us because we don't even live there, you know. But if you were to leave your community, or if you were to be well-intentioned, well, you know, oh, let's build up an economy, let's build up some wealth, let's you know, focus on, you know, self, let's disrupt the whole status quo, let's petition, let's be well governed, let's do a whole bunch of good stuff for ourselves. You know, you got to think in the perspective of the ruling class, right? If you're the ruling class and you like, let's say we're in a black nation, you have a white minority who's not, you know, who's like pretty much a mess, but eventually they start fixing their stuff up, and then they start looking good, they start doing good, and they start even talking about overthrowing your black government. You know, they don't like how you run things. They want to run your country. They want to do terrorism against your country or whatever. And it would be terrorism, you know, by your perspective, right? Even though they're doing revolutionary liberation, blah blah blah, it would be terrorism by your perspective. So, would you just sit back and say, yeah, sure, let's see how strong they get, or would you stop them? And that's really, like, this is why I say that you have to go by the power perspective, from the perspective of what is how do the powerful people think. But let's keep going. So the objective, so this is what I'm saying right here. The objective anywhere then is to exist in a well-meaning state. See, you want the state itself to be well-meaning. You see? And how would you go about with this would be either to be very lucky or to organize. You know? And I say that's the dream. So that's what it is. That's what it comes down to. You know, the reality being that you are in a state. You are in a country. And whether the country is well-meaning or ill-meaning, ill-intentioned or well-meaning, is like you have to figure that out. And if the country is well-meaning in a sense, then that's where you want to be in a sense. If it's not well-meaning, and of course well-meaning is itself subjective, you know. Well-meaning is itself subjective, you know. I mean, a lot of people don't want to hear this, but it's kind of like when you go back to the political parties. Now, obviously, neither of the political parties are going to support revolutionary black militant organization. You know, neither of them are going to support that in their borders because, you know, again, like revolution implies that they will no longer be in power. Nobody really wants you not in power, right? So you'd have to fight them. Like, you're going to find resistance anywhere you go. You know, even Marcus Garvey found resistance in Liberia. You know, and Liberia is a black nation. You know, but you're going to find resistance from the ruling class anywhere you go. So it's nothing to be like, hey, the ruling class doesn't want us to defund the police. You know, of course they don't want you to defund the police because the goal of the state, the goal of the state is to be more. Is to be more more militarized than its citizens, right? So the goal of the state is to be more militarized than the citizens. So because that's the goal of the state, that you know, you're not going to find a state that says, let me demilitarize, you know, for especially at the demand of people who say, let me overthrow you. You know, you're not going to find that. It just wouldn't be bright on the part of the ruling class, you know. But that's it. You know, how would you go about with that? That's the dream. That's how the dream functions. So the question then being, can you liberate yourself without a gang and or militancy? And of course not, because the opposition to you, no matter where you're going to be, is going to be the state. The opposition for any individual anywhere in the world, particularly on the overthrow of the state, or for a well-meaning state. If it's not a well-meaning state, then there's going to be opposition from the state because you're going to want to pursue either revolution or reform. But again, why would they want reform if they can exploit you? Like, if the state is about the exploitation of you, or the state is about status quo as it is, then no, they're not going to allow you to overthrow them. And like I said, that's the dream, you know. And if anybody has any comments or anything of the sort, but of course, you know, if not, that's all good. But that's how I would see it, you know. That's what I would that's what I wanted to share. It was a nice dream that taught me a few things, and that's pretty much the gist of it. I'm gonna shut this down. Appreciate everybody who listened. I mean, it looks like it's just me, but but you know, in that case, I still appreciate everybody who listened. And you know, leave a comment, like, subscribe, share. This was it's gonna be a short one. I just wanted to just quickly tell you that you know, if you have dreams, you just look at it, write them down, and try to get some lessons from it. You know, it's a good way to self-discovery and a good way to reinforce the knowledge that you already had before. You know, and that knowledge being, you know, you gotta organize. You cannot not organize and expect to be the ruling class. Okay, the goal is to organize, become the ruling class, and we can take this far. But thank you so much for listening. Shem Hotep. Oh, and like the brother was saying, get yourself a gun. You know, get yourself a gun. Organize flanks. Organize military techniques. That's a very important thing to do. You'll probably hear it if you ever get a chance to listen to my presentation at the